Aria Morgan's hands moved deftly over vibrant digital displays, ensuring each sleek device gleamed under the boutique's artful lighting. The soft hum of conversation from outside the glass walls seeped in, a stark reminder of the elite celebrity wedding unfolding just beyond her modest work environment. Among the dazzling array of shoppers wafting in, clad in designer silks and gold, Aria seemed a specter in her simple uniform, more noticeable for how well she blended into the background than for anything else. Inside, elegance and luxury danced around the gleaming hallways, the soft whisper of rich fabric against marble as guests flitted to and from the VIP lounge. Despite the glamour surging throughout the mall, Aria's focus remained unshaken, radiating quiet competence amidst opulence that dwarfed her own humble presence. The tranquility shattered abruptly when an escalating commotion crackled through the store's entrance, sharp reprimands accented by the click of an impatient heel. Panic swirled among the crowd like a sudden storm. Exclusive wedding photos had been leaked, a disaster capturing all attention. Eyes turned, sharp and judgmental, zeroing in on the supposed perpetrator. "There she is," an event planner's shrill voice cut through, pointing toward Aria. "She's the one." Brows knit into disapproving furrows as bystanders whispered, glances cast in Aria's direction, doubt a tangible weight pressing down on her. Her heart thudding in her chest, disbelief rendering her temporarily speechless, Aria found herself at the center of a very public accusation. Declarations of her sneaky eyes, a spying presence drawing forth murmurs of acquiescence. In a hearingless trial, Aria was flushed in a flood of blame, her protests drowned beneath the clamor of status and suspicion. Escorted away with whispered derision nipping at her heels, Aria left, her head downcast but spirit unbroken, the weight of an accusation she knew was untrue heavy upon her soul. The small name tag pinned above Aria's heart felt like an unbearably heavy burden as she stumbled back into the quiet sanctuary of her apartment. It was a modest space, but it had always felt like home, a refuge. Now, it felt more like a cage, the walls closing in with every echoing thought of what had transpired at the mall. Aria sank into the worn-out cushions of her sofa, the weight of exhaustion and humiliation slumping her shoulders. Though the clock ticked lethargically on the wall, time seemed to stretch into an endless wave of hopelessness. Her eyes traced the routine sight of the pale curtains, fluttering slightly against the draft seeping through the window, and she felt as if she were dissolving into the sameness, her identity eroded by an accusation still ringing in her ears. Phone calls went unanswered as she couldn't muster the energy to explain, or even to speak. Her voice had evaporated from her throat, leaving her a silent specter within her own life. She couldn't eat, even though her stomach twisted with hunger, a visceral knot accompanying the storm of unspoken slander against her name. Sleep was a distant hope. Whenever she closed her eyes, harsh whispers and accusatory glares invaded her mind. Her neighbors noticed her absence from their customary chats at the shared garden below, but Aria never drew back the blinds to acknowledge the sunlight or the sympathetic knocks at her door, well-meaning inquiries echoing hollowly down the hall. On the third sleepless night, a struggling slumber finally descended on her like a gentle thief, stealing the heaviness from her limbs only to trade it for unsettling dreams, fragments of her past played out behind closed eyelids, memories unearthed by her consciousness reaching out for solace. Years earlier, Aria had been a promising photography student. Her passion for capturing life's fleeting moments through the lens propelled her through college, her eye for detail earning her praise from professors and peers. In class, she learned to see the world meticulously, each angle and light shadowing a story. There, her future had unfurled before her like a bright, open horizon. Then came the heart-wrenching pivot. An unexpected family crisis left her spiraling. Her mother's diagnosis with an aggressive illness marked a painful new chapter. As hospital bills stacked higher and higher, Aria shouldered the responsibility undauntedly, setting aside her dreams of artistry for pragmatic necessity. She left her studies and worked multiple jobs in a wearying cycle, gelding herself into roles at odds with her ambitions to keep her mother's warmth and laughter close a little longer. Her long hours fledging into night shifts as a waitress, a cashier, and finally, her position as a store clerk at the elite boutique, helped maintain the fragile balance. Yet, they also slowly chipped away at the vibrant artist she had once been. Those years were a marathon of endurance and sacrifice, grounded in the love for her mother and the whisper of promises she hoped to someday reclaim. And when her mother eventually slipped away, leaving behind a painfully silent home, all Arya could do was clutch onto what remnants she could salvage. She carried on with relentless determination, the embodiment of silent resilience, pulling herself from emotional wreckage to build anew, piece by painstaking piece. A smile from a customer or quiet moments spent lost in thought on her breaks became small triumphs, reminders of perseverance engraved in routine. Now, that delicate mosaic had been shattered, each fragment reflecting the pristine image society had cast upon her without warning. Her past recollections tangled with present disbelief, each image of celebratory sheen flickering across her mind like burns against a dark canvas. By Friday morning, the echoes finally dimmed within the confines of her apartment. Arya sat at her kitchen table, hands wrapped around a coffee mug that dampened her palms with heat, though her insides felt cold. Her thoughts circled endlessly, chasing an insistent voice that broke through the fog, the need for resolution, to validate her voice beneath the oppressive weight of silence. Though fear strangled her aspirations, clarity flickered through her mind like an exposed bulb. She must fight to reclaim the narrative stolen from her. Her old photography bag sat in the corner of her room, layers of dust collecting atop the leather, a remnant of both what was lost and what was to be regained. She lifted it gingerly, memories flooding through her fingers as they ghosted over compartments once filled with camera equipment lovingly selected. Her heart beat stronger with each touch, a reminder of skills shelved but not forgotten. As the day unfolded, Arya redefined her resolve, finding strength in familiarity, a purpose stronger than the burden of false accusations. She pieced together a plan, starting by reaching out to the very environment that had failed her, infusing hope amidst doubt. She would unearth the truth, no matter how deep or elusive, driven by a once-cherished principle, capturing moments of honesty, however hard to define. With renewed determination nestled within her chest, she dialed the number to her former manager. Her voice, though tinged with nerves, held steady as she described the incident from her perspective, diving into the inconsistencies she had unearthed during obsessive social media scrolling. Someone was there, a photographer not on your list. She paused, forcing each word from frozen air. I recognize equipment like that. It stands out when you know what to look for. But the exchange ended predictably, dismissal wrapped in patronization, the hollow assurance that procedures would be followed but that no definitive action could be taken. Her manager's tone, though courteous, resonated with indifference, dropping like a dead weight into the pit of her stomach. Still, Arya was undeterred. Arya knew she couldn't rely on others to right this wrong. Instead, resilient threads from her past intertwined with her present, drawing her toward answers she'd weave herself. Her resolve was a tapestry of relentless will, unbroken and firm beneath the pressure of silence demanding her submission. Emerging from her apartment, Arya decided there would be no giving up until justice illuminated her path once more. A few days later, as morning light sliced through her curtains, Arya sat on the edge of her bed, scrolling through endless social media posts, studying and compulsively refreshing, desperate for any shred of clarity. Late-night streams from her artist friends revealed heart-stopping details, a hashtag tagging moments from the wedding, tagged photos, and casual comments, all pieces of a chaotic puzzle. As static filled her mind, a post caught her attention, freezing her mid-scroll, a snippet of video showing a bustling area in the mall. Breathing shallowly, she watched as an unfamiliar photographer, encumbered with sleek, professional gear, moved conspicuously near where the guests had gathered. The photographer's movements were deliberate but exuded something more, a predatory focus, a hunger for the perfect shot or the perfect scandal. Arya felt a flicker of hope flare in her chest, a tiny beacon urging her forward. This was something tangible, a thread in the intricate web of deception that might lead to the truth. Arya knew what she saw, the body language of someone out of place in a crowd, a rhythm disrupting the harmony of well-rehearsed chaos. The person had been there all along, lurking just out of focus. With that fragment clutched gratefully to her heart, Arya steeled herself for what she needed to do next. She gathered her courage, slipping into her jacket as she reached for her phone and keys. Her heart pounded a steady rhythm as she headed for the mall, one final effort to carve a place for her voice amidst the cynical echoes of wealth and status. Inside the bustling luxury mall, Arya approached the familiar warmth of the boutique. Despite the tension of returning as an outsider, she pushed through her self-doubt, confronting the judgmental looks from both staff and regulars. She noticed a security guard she occasionally chatted with on her breaks, a man with kind eyes and a hearty laugh. "Martin," she called out, voice a mixture of hesitance and resolve. His brow lifted at the sight of her, sympathy creeping into his features. "I need your help." As she explained the situation, Martin listened attentively, nodding in response. He appeared contemplative, chewing on the corner of his lip, a sign he was mulling over whether to extend a hand, caught between regulations and a human instinct to assist the wronged. "Let's review the footage," Martin finally conceded, gesturing for her to follow him toward the security office tucked discreetly inside an unmarked door. The path twisted through narrow hallways, tension mounting as Arya walked alongside Martin in silence. Inside the small office, he flicked on the monitors displaying a series of rotating camera feeds, the screens casting a bluish glow across their faces. As they reviewed the footage leading up to the wedding, the atmosphere grew tense, each silent minute stretching into an eternity. "There, stop," Arya breathed, pointing at the screen as a figure appeared. The presence of the unfamiliar photographer, operating with a calculated air, flitted across the footage. Martin rewound the angles slowly, eyes narrowing as they scrutinized the recording frame by frame, the heat of hope building beneath Arya's skin. Each motion, each action, captured in a finite loop until there it was, the photographer slipping ungraciously into the restricted employee area just before leaving a small, discreet camera nestled within what appeared to be Arya's belongings. The scene unfurled like a revelation painted across the monitors, a vindication as clear as sunrise against midnight. Arya inhaled sharply, her pulse accelerating with an unrestrained blend of relief and indignation. Martin let out a low whistle, shaking his head in disbelief. "They really did set you up, didn't they?" "Yes." Arya's voice trembled not with fear, but with the simmering anticipation of finally being heard. "Someone used my uniform to mask the device, banking on me blending in. They wanted someone easy to blame." Her conviction solidified, no longer tentative and uncertain. Both Arya and Martin understood that this moment bore weight, a critical juncture in untangling the falsehood weaving the events together. They had to act thoughtfully, with intent to flip the narrative deeply entrenched in favor of deceit. Martin extracted the necessary copy of the footage onto a USB drive, the importance of the proof lying tangibly in his hand. "You have to show this truth to those in power, Arya," Martin urged, handing over the hard-won evidence, a glimmer of respect in his steady gaze. "Thank you," Arya breathed, gripping the drive as though it tethered her to this newfound path. She glimpsed the seriousness in his eyes, touched by his willingness to support her when no one else would. With a mix of trepidation and earnest determination fueling her, Arya departed the cramped office. She ventured back through the extravagant corridors of the mall, distant laughter echoing around the airy spaces, distorting into something more malicious, a reminder of her turbulent journey. Yet, her steps no longer faltered, clear in their progression, they carried renewed resolve. Each stride was purposeful, guiding her closer to justice, closer to reclaiming her integrity from the treacherous recesses of presumption and prejudice. Now armed with evidence, Arya had the means to transform whispers of doubt into a definitive reality unclouded by doubt, a chance to restore the truth disrupted by envy and deception. The weight she felt now was different, no longer oppressive. It was the tangible presence of strength, renewed by a chance to make the unseen seen, to speak when once she had been silenced. In her hands lay not just the physical evidence but the very essence of her pursuit, a key to unlock the binding judgment held unjustly over her name. Thus resolved, Arya moved forward, ready to rewrite the story that circumstance had penned without her consent, ready to shift the balance and herald self-forgiveness toward redemption painted vividly on the horizon. The cool autumn breeze tousled Aria's hair as she approached the mall once more, armed with the invaluable USB drive. The evidence she carried was a talisman, a beacon of undeniable truth meant to pierce the dense fog of deception that had clouded her reputation. Every step she took reverberated with purpose, each breath an incantation of resilience. The air felt thinner here, charged with potential and expectation, as if the world itself held its breath, waiting for something pivotal to unfold. This time, she wasn't a solitary shadow among the elite. She walked confidently past the store where she once worked, not pausing to cast a retrospective glance. Instead, Aria zeroed in on her destination, the plush and opulent wings of the mall's grand salon, where a follow-up reception for the celebrity wedding was being hosted, a perfect opportunity to reunite those involved under one regal canopy. Elegant guests, trailing perfume and laughter, mingled in clusters. Their presence exuded vivacity, life in a series of intricate steps upon a social stage. Yet, beneath the surface, there bubbled an undercurrent of gossamer tension, threads spun from shifting alliances and the currency of status. Aria ventured through this crowd, purpose forging a path as tangible as the red carpet beneath their designer heels. With the evidence firmly gripped, she spotted her inconspicuous ally, Martin the security guard, standing near the entrance. He offered a brief nod, a silent reassurance that her steps were not entirely unsupported. Encouraged, Aria made her way toward the event planner who had been so quick to cast blame. The woman, draped in a chic black dress and clutching a polished leather planner, exhibited authority and stress in equal measure. Aria's heart thrummed as she approached the planner, who looked up at her, recognition dawning dimly at first before flickering real light upon Aria's presence. Aria? The planner's voice held a note of guarded curiosity, laced cautiously with remnants of accusation. What are you doing here? Drawing a deep breath, Aria refused to waver. I have something you need to see, she began, her tone calm but edged with earnest urgency. The wedding incident wasn't what you thought. This proof shows who was really responsible. The planner's expression shifted, skepticism, disbelief, but also an involuntary spotlight of intrigue. Gesturing to an empty side area, she ushered Aria aside, away from the prying eyes of curiosity-fed spectators. Standing in the alcove, Aria handed over the USB drive, steadying her resolve as the planner plugged it into her tablet. The video began to play, and the veil of drama adjusted itself to accommodate the revealed strokes of treachery. Each frame etched truth into the planner's consciousness, the sordid tale told with unyielding clarity. Skepticism ebbed reluctantly, replaced by widening eyes as she saw the theft of privacy play out, the photographer planting the camera with chilling deliberation. Beneath the soft temperaments of background music, the silence between Aria and the planner felt immense. A tectonic shift was set into motion as the weight of realization crushed preconceived notions built upon fragile assumptions. The planner, visibly flustered, looked up from the tablet, comprehension dawning like an unsettling sunrise. We didn't see this before, she stammered, as the gravity of their mistake sank in. You weren't involved. We accused you, too quickly, she admitted, sincerity flickering in her gaze. The irony lay crystal clear. Aria hadn't needed to speak loudly to be heard, only needed concrete truth to unmask the echoes of her innocence. She felt a surge of relief, the pressure that had nestled heavily in her chest since the initial accusation slowly beginning to lift. Empowered by the impact of truth, Aria pushed onward. I'd like you to inform everyone here of what's on that drive, she requested gently yet firmly. It needs to be corrected publicly. Some tension tightened at the planner's mouth, but she nodded, conducted by pragmatic understanding as her professional instincts engaged. The guests need to know, she agreed, acknowledging the momentum that Aria demanded. Re-entering the grand room, the planner recalibrated the evening's order with swift precision. She summoned the mall manager, another layer of authority compelled to witness and rectify the overlooked injustice. Words spread like ripples in a pond, drawing anticipatory glances and inquisitive murmurs. Addressing the crowd, the planner's voice rang authoritative and clear. amplified by the acoustics of the salon designed to flatter melodies and declarations alike. Mall hierarchy gathered with the guests, curiosity etching over the polished surfaces of their composed facades. Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the interruption, but we must address an important matter. The discourse unfolded, each sentence penned by the inconvenient necessity for responsibility and the painful balm of sincere apology. Revelation began to assert control over the truth, the accusation woven against Arya replaced by necessary clarity. As the attendees absorbed the revelation, the accused photographer spotted at the periphery began shifting nervously, panic stretching tight over a facade poised to collapse. The would-be artist-turned-traitor found herself under an unrelenting spotlight of accountability. The public denouncement was as swift as it was inevitable. Guests, with their shared understanding of stakes and reputation, wavered between disbelief and obligation to partake in collective acknowledgement, an admission to having unwittingly participated in a lie. Whispers escalated into a crescendo. The shift had occurred. Suspicion evaporated into thin air, extracted by the transparency that now suffused the event with renewed clarity. Arya stood discreetly outside the circle of accusations rearranged, her veracity reinforcing the foundation upon which justice steadily built. The truth was a luminous beacon cutting through shadows of doubt. Its revelation, painful, cleansing, inevitable, echoed like gentle ripples across an intricate, social fabric, leaving behind a landscape readied for healing. Arya's mission was nearly complete, her voice finally acknowledged amidst flickering misjudgments vigilantly extinguished by a simple declaration of fact. Now, change had been wrought not by volume but by veracity, and the power of evidence emblazoned irrevocably into the tapestry that this setting required. As murmurs of shock and chatter rippled through the luxurious room, the mood shifted like the passing of a shadow leaving behind a clear, crisp day. The photographer, visibly pale and flustered, attempted a retreat, but the crowd had already closed in, an unspoken judgment settling over the guests, paneling their disbelief into impromptu solidarity. Arya watched from the periphery as the mall's authorities moved with deliberate intention toward the culprit, whose veneer of professionalism had crumbled in the spotlight's searing revelation. The photographer's protests sputtered and dwindled, each denial punctuated by the concrete evidence Arya had unveiled. The actions here are unacceptable in any setting, much less on such a prestigious occasion, the planner announced, transforming diplomatic resolution into a stroke of accountability. This dear guest, hired under false pretenses, attempted to sabotage our privacy and has been rightly exposed. From that point on, consequences unfurled with a precision mirroring the planner's clipped directive. The photographer was summarily approached and escorted from the venue, gestures polished and civil, but resonating finality as clear as a judge's gavel. Whispers trailed, following the discredited artist's departure, an expulsion resonating with an undertone of salutary justice. The room pulsed with energy, a mingling of cathartic closure and recalibrated harmony. Guests turned to Arya, acknowledgement dawning as if seeing her for the true beacon she was amidst erstwhile dim settings. The unassuming clerk turned elegant emissary of truth dispensed with quiet empowerment. Eye contact met soft murmurings of apologies extended from those made aware of their premature judgments, snippets carried between guests veiled behind cursory nods and half-expressed sympathies. Within the tableau of redemption, Arya's valor had translated into its own currency, one of perception and respect. Among them, the general manager of the mall stepped forward, dressed in a pressed suit with measured authority. His expression struck a respectful balance, chastened yet responsive, layers of administratorial obligation asserting relevance. Arya, the general manager addressed, voice modeled with clear intent, "We owe you an immense debt, not simply for revealing the truth, but for salvaging the dignity of those affected by the deceit." A ripple of agreement filtered through the crowd, an unspoken acknowledgement infusing the air like shared breath. Arya nodded lucidly, the moment a soothing balm for indignities suffered beneath suspicion's unjust sway. Yet an unexpected offer followed smoothly from challenge to resolution, a gesture enveloped in sincerity. "To compensate for the misunderstanding and the distress it has brought upon you, we would like to extend an opportunity for you," the general manager continued, clearly choosing his words with care. "We have a position more suited to your skills and honor, the role of media relations and photography coordinator for exclusive events. We hope you consider it a chance to forge your unique path. A gentle murmur cascaded from the assembled guests, appreciation etched across their features, aligning rhythmically with the expansive offer. Arya paused, absorbing the weight of words laced with new opportunities, a reversal of misfortune reborn into a prospective chapter. "Thank you," she responded instead, embodying internal poise. "I'm grateful for the offer and acknowledgement. For now, I'd appreciate time to reflect on the journey this has taken me on." Their assent came with quiet acceptance, paired by tender respect, a recognition mirroring invisible strengths she had evoked, striking an unvoiced chord among those attuned to rediscovery. Amidst the subtle reconfigurations of alliance and ideal, Arya felt a profound sense of closure, the denouement crafted by her own bid for inner resilience. Her journey had cast her not just as a player in life's theater but as an architect of her identity, one defined by truth, dignity, and autonomy. As the evening wore on and the salon began to disperse its formidable clientele, Arya lingered briefly, sustained by blessings of forgiveness and renewal. Her perspective widened beyond the confines of wealth and recognition, discovering paths untrod rich with possibility, inviting footsteps daring yet resolute. With a final glance at the grandeur of her surroundings, Arya exited the grand ballroom, her passage marked by a nascent grace born of experience and resilience. Outside in the bustling mall, the world felt vividly alive, its rhythm unbroken yet transformed, reframed by the lens of newfound strength. As she wandered past displays once dulled to her attentive eye, colors vibrated with the spectrum of her achievement, a kaleidoscope of shades symbolizing untapped potential. Arya walked purposefully, freshly unshackled by presumption, displaced by revelation, her mind fertile as she explored broader horizons, propelling her toward her next act. The once quiet store clerk, underestimated and invisible, had garnered visibility, not through wealth or artifice but truth enacted with uncompromising valor. She stepped into the embrace of the evening twilight, where an exuberant whirl of city life unfolded before her. Arya's spirit soared with ephemeral beauty, resonating with grace as internal fears found peace beneath radiant resurgence, a tapestry resplendent in the articulation of dreams spun anew. The air around her sang of potentialities yet to resonate with her daring voice, a song she had composed with courage and heart, beginning tirelessly anew amidst the tapestry of humanity's infinite capacity to forgive and redefine. Her head held high, Arya stepped forward, leaving behind shadows as she embraced illuminating tomorrows suffused with beauty she had reclaimed, dreams reborn, untouched by doubt.